Welcome to English Country Life. This is a June episode of our series, A Chicken Year, where we're looking at everything we're concentrating on here on the small holding to do with the chickens. Marshmallow has successfully hatched 12 chicks and we have got broodies galore, so we've got lots going on. Welcome, my name's Fiona. Last month we showed you Marshmallow, who was incubating some eggs, and we talked about caring for her. She's now successfully hatched 12 wonderful little chicks, and I want to show you how we're caring for them and making sure they're safe and well. What I'm then going to show you is Frankie. She's got a very different brood setup to the one that Marshmallow had, and she does have some special needs. And I want to take you through how we are actually caring for her. Now, we do breed Buff Orpingtons and they do have broody tendencies, but there's other breeds out there that can brood. So I'm going to show you Rhubarb, one of our other hens who shouldn't be brooding but is. Then I'm going to show you how we've had to innovate, because we've got more broody hens this year than we've ever had before. So we've had to innovate to make sure all of our brood hens have access to a unique coop with a run themselves. And that's what we're going to go through in June. So let's get started by having a look at Marshmallow. I want to just give you a little bit of an update on Marshmallow and her chicks, and hopefully you can hear all of the cheeping from Marshmallow and her brood. Now, unfortunately, Thor is standing in the way of the camera at the moment, but Marshmallow's here with her brood. She's actually got 12 chicks which were successfully hatched, and it wasn't an easy process. What we recommend to anyone who has broody hens is that they have backup equipment. Now, Marshmallow was amazing at incubating the eggs. She's an amazing brood hen caring for these chicks as they grow. But for hatching, I have to say, she was abysmal. She was absolutely awful. And we had to make regular use of an incubator and a brooder plate. And we do have a separate video following that process, so you can look at that in detail. So I won't go through it all again on this video. But there are things that we need to do now to help Marshmallow now the chicks are out of the coop and in with the flock. So let me just show you those. You might be wondering why I'm sat here in front of the feeders. Well, there is a risk to Marshmallow's chicks at this age that our treadle feeders could potentially crush their tiny little bodies. So it's important to us to have the treadle feeders propped open when Marshmallow and the chicks are out in the field. And as you can see, she's actually using the treadle feeder at the moment to feed the chicks. And you can also see how friendly they are. They're jumping up on me, expecting me to give them some food. Now, I suspect if I put a little bit of this chick crumb in my hand, I can get the chicks to come up onto my knee and feed. And there you go. I've got Marshmallow taking food out of my hand and giving it to the chicks. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. These treadle feeders are propped open during the day, and that's because the chicks are incredibly small and quite fragile. So the lid needs to be open because it's possible with Marshmallow standing on the treadle, it needs her weight to keep the lid open. And if she comes off the treadle, that lid can slam down and potentially crush one of the chicks. Now, we are still in the UK under avian influenza restrictions. The housing restrictions have been lifted, and we were lifted at the start of May, but we still have a requirement to keep food under cover. So how do we get around that? Well, this treadle feeder is propped open, as you can see. Let me just give the chicks the last of that food. But we've got it in the surround, and in there we can then cover it up with this roof. Let me show you. And then that meets the requirements. So it's covered up from any wild birds flying over. They can't see it, but the young chicks can access the feed no problem at all. There are three things I really want to update you about Marshmallow's coop. The first thing you're going to notice is different to the May video is there's no run attached, and that's because we took it away on day 3. Now, Marshmallow had a little bit of trouble with hatching, so we left the run on for 3 days just to make sure the chicks had enough strength and were fast enough to get away from the other hens should there be any problems. But we rarely have an issue. In fact, I don't remember ever having an issue with broody hens being introducing her chicks to the flock at large. Now, we do have very docile breeds, and we've also got lots and lots of room, because initially what happens is the broody hen will navigate around the outside of the other hens and take her time gradually bringing them closer and closer. If you don't have the docile breeds we've got, or you don't have the amount of room we've got, you'll need to keep a very close eye. And to be honest, for the first 2 days that the chicks are allowed out, we do keep a very, very close eye on, just to make sure there's no behavioural issues. And we are prepared to put the run back should there be any problems. The second thing you might notice is we've got this mesh around the outside of the coop. And the reason for that is to stop the chicks from running underneath, because at night the broody hen goes into the coop and she's constantly making this low noise. You might hear her in the background calling her chicks, and she'll go inside the coop, but the chicks will take the most direct route to get as close to that noise as possible, and that is running underneath the coop. Now, the only problem is that they will stay close to that broody hen noise, and it will be counterintuitive for them to run away from it, come out and go inside the door to get to her body heat. And chicks underneath the coop can actually very quickly succumb to hypothermia. So we've got this mesh here to prevent them going underneath the coop, and that means they've got to navigate around and go inside the coop. The third thing which I'm going to point out is at night we actually put inside a small chick feeder, and we also put in a chick drinker. And again, there's good reasons for that, because we could close up the coop at night and we keep the chicks locked in until we get up. We can open the treadle feeders so that it's safe for the chicks, and it could be we have some problems. It could be we're called away with a family emergency. So at least we are absolutely safe in knowing that the chicks have food and water should there be a delay in us coming out and manually opening the coop. In our May video, you would have seen the coop and run that Marshmallow had, and that was a wooden coop with a wooden run. But Frankie has a very different setup. We have this walk-in run, which is a permanent structure now on our little small holding. And Frankie has been using a 100% recycled coop from a company called Nestera. And I have to say, we are sold both on the Garden Life Direct walk-in run and the Nestera coop. The Nestera coop comes with a 25-year guarantee. So all of the maintenance we have to do every single year on our wooden coops, with replacing panels, stopping rot, making sure that they can actually work, the hatches open, replacing hatches. It's been crazy on the wooden coops. But the Nestera Coop, 25-year guarantee, so we are sold on them as a brand. Now, it has to be said, both of these were gifted to us, but we do have review videos where you can check out exactly what we think about them, the pros and cons, so you can decide whether these are right for you. Now, if you do decide they're right for you, both Garden Life Direct and Nestera are offering 10% off to our subscribers. There's a link down below that you'll need to use, and there's the code in the description as well. So use that link and the code to get 10% off either Garden Life Direct walk-in runs or Nestera Coops. Anyway, I digress. You might notice that Frankie is in here. I don't know whether you can see her or not, probably not, but she's got 9 healthy chicks, but her brood was actually very challenging, and that's because Frankie is what we call a special needs chicken, which might sound very, very bizarre. But on day 2 or 3 of Frankie's life, her brood hen accidentally stood on her head and it crushed her skull. Now, that kind of injury should have been fatal, but in Frankie's case, she actually miraculously survived. It has left her with some issues. The first is she walks and runs with a little bit of a limp, and she's slower to pick up new things which are introduced into the chicken area. It may take her 3 or 4 days to learn how to use a new treadle feeder, whereas the other chickens will pick it up within 24 hours. But she's the most amazing broody hen. She's the sweetest little chicken. Now, it has to be said that her body condition index during a brood period is a real challenge. Brood hens sit on their nest for around 23 hours a day, so they've only got 1 hour off where they come out and eat, drink as much as they possibly can, and they poop obviously during that time too. But because they're eating for such a short period of time, it's normal for a brood hen to lose some weight. Now Frankie, because she's at the lower end of normal in her body condition index, and there's a link to a body condition index chart down below so you can see what I'm talking about and how to check with your hens. But Frankie can very easily slip from the lower side of normal to underweight. So it's important that we make sure that she's got supplementary food in her coop during the day. And we decided to give her hot mash because something about the warmth and the aroma of the hot cereals and hot mash that encourages her to eat. Now if you're wondering what that is, I'm going to show you how to make up a hot mash and how to make sure that the temperature's right to give it to your hens. And this is the hot mash. Now in this case, what we've realised is rather than growers pellets, which is appropriate for a broody hen, they actually like chick crumb far more. So I'm just putting a little bit of chick crumb in a bowl, and then I'm going to add some very hot water. Actually in this case it's boiling water. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now let that cool down. I'm going to let the cereals in the chick crumb swell up, and that'll be ready to give to the broody hens. So the mash is now ready and I'm going to give it to Frankie, but before it goes in I need to test that it's not too hot. And how do I do that? Very simply, pop my finger into the mash. It needs to be no warmer than lukewarm. If it is still warm to the touch, it needs to cool down a little bit more. But this is ready, so it's time to give it to Frankie. And this is the result. Frankie's healthy and her 9 chicks are incredibly healthy. We are teaching them to be unafraid of us, so we're hand feeding every single day, which Frankie clearly is helping us with. But the important thing is that we checked her body condition index all the way through the brood period, and we managed to keep her in the normal range. She didn't slip into underweight. But as you can see, supplementary feed is a good thing to do if you are concerned about your hens not eating enough during the brood period. We do breed Buff Orpingtons here, and they are notorious for being broody. But in this coop, let me just show you one of our little crested cream leg bars. Now this is rhubarb. And crested cream leg bars aren't notorious for brooding, but every breed out there has the capability, even hybrids. We had a road rock in the past who sat and brooded on some eggs. Now rhubarb is doing a fabulous job, but I'm going to leave her alone just to get some peace. Just want to talk a little bit about brood coops, because this year we've had to innovate a little bit. You've seen the brood coop that Marshmallow had, and I've shown you the wonderful coop that Frankie's in, that great Nestera coop. This did not look like this to begin with. This coop that Rhubarb's actually sat in was a high coop. It actually sat off the ground roughly about here, and let me show you some pictures of that. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a picture of the coop without me in it, but as you can see, the coop itself was raised off the ground and there was quite a steep incline to the ramp, something that young chicks would really struggle with. I'd love to pretend that I had a hand in this, but when all's said and done, Hugh's the handyman here, so he is the one who's done all this innovation. Now, because chicks can't cope with steep inclines, it's been really important to cut this coop down to ground level so that the chicks have got a very, very small ramp to wander up. That means that we've taken off that area underneath, which would have been underneath the coop, and it means there's less run space. But let's be honest, we're going to take this run away very early on in the chick's life, so that isn't an issue. What has been an issue is the run attached to this section of roof. Now, without closing it in, there would have been a wide open space, which meant wild birds could have got into that section. So what Hugh's done is he's taken the excess mesh, which came from underneath the coop, and he's used it to block up that hole. He's done an amazing job. He's also used some other sections to bring it in to close up that space there. And as you can see, he's also cut a section out so we can still open and close the door. But Rhubarb's in here at the moment, and this is the perfect brood coop. But let me show you another one that we have adapted to use as a brood coop. This is by far our simplest brood coop construction. It used to be a shelter and this whole section at the front was open, but we were running out of brood coops, so we've adapted it, and all we've done is we've added a pillar 2/3 of the way along and added a large door and a small door. If it's going to be a brood coop, the large door is closed, so the brood hen can go in and out the small door, and she's got this wonderful calm place for her to sit and incubate her eggs. Now, we've had to adapt it because we ran out of brood coops, and we haven't got a run attached to it at the moment because we're waiting for one final broody. And great news for us, Taffy looks like she's gone broody, and even better, she's in here. She's actually taken to this coop. She's been in here for 4 hours so far and is really happy, flat as a pancake, seems to be doing a great job. If she's still there in 2 hours, we'll bring the run in and just make sure that she sits, and tomorrow we'll get her some eggs. But I'm going to open the door very, very carefully just so you can have a quick look at her. And there she is, and I think she has taken, but I'm going to close this door to give her some peace and quiet. Now, the point of this that I wanted to get to is that brood coops don't have to be sophisticated. You can actually adapt from what you've got. The only criteria you need to think about is there needs to be a calm place for the broody hen to sit, and it needs to be big enough to accommodate her and however many chicks you're hoping to hatch until they're 6 to 8 weeks old. So you might need to think about how many eggs you add. This is actually a fairly small coop, so I'm trying to get Custard out of the way so she doesn't disturb Taffy. But this is not one of the largest coops, so we'll only put a few eggs in for Taffy, but it works really, really well. If you don't have a specific coop you can use for a brood coop, have a look around, see what you've already got. Don't go out and buy something especially. Adapt what you have if you can, but it doesn't mean you need to spend cash. The good news for us is Taffy did brood, so she's now installed in the coop and we've added the run. And the run is a homemade construction as well. It's a simple box construction with chicken wire over the top. Very simple and cheap. That's our June month. July is going to be full of chicks. We are going to be knee deep in chicks in July. So come back and join us next month. And if you have liked this content, take a moment and give us a thumbs up down below. If you're not already a subscriber, come and join us. Hit subscribe and the bell icon and you'll be notified of every new video as soon as it goes live. If you've got a question for us, just leave it in the comment section and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But for now, thanks for watching and we look forward to seeing you next time.